It's a crucial week for the Taliban ahead amid many uncertainties. The Taliban is set to form the new Afghan government. The group, which was declared a terror outfit by the United Nations, will now have to transform into a governing power. Reports suggest that the announcement will come after Friday prayers. The Taliban has promised a softer brand of rule than before. Whether it will follow through or not remains to be seen. The international community has adopted the wait and watch rule as it mulls recognising the Taliban. Talks are underway in Kandahar. The latest reports coming in suggest that Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, who is a co-founder of the Taliban, is expected to be the head of the Executive Council. This council will be functioning under the Emir. Sheikh Haibatullah will be the supreme authority of the new Islamic government. Key positions are expected to be given to Sirajuddin Haqqani, another deputy, and an influential operations leader within the movement. Along with him, Malawi Muhammad Yaqub, who is the son of the Taliban movement's founder, Mullah Muhammad Omar, who will also be given a role in the government. So far, the Taliban have made the following appointments. They have named a governor for Kabul, a mayor for Kabul, a governor for Nangarhar, a governor for Khost, also appointed the head of the Sports Federation and a minister for higher education. Officials running the Ministry of Public Health and the Central Bank have also been named. Many Kabul residents have expressed fears about the country's future. While some are concerned about employment opportunities, some fear they won't have access to education. Experts are hoping for an inclusive government, but the Taliban has not yet confirmed anything. What we know for certain is that the Taliban is taking over a country ravaged on multiple fronts: war, food shortages, drought, a sinking currency, rising inflation. There's a long list the Taliban will have to deal with. More than a third of the population lives on less than $2 a day. Banks were closed after the takeover. They've now been ordered to reopen. But that means hours of queuing, thanks to strict weekly limits on cash withdrawals. The country also faces the loss of billions of dollars in foreign aid. And many help groups have halted their aid since the US troops withdrawal. The Taliban has promised that the economic hardships will ease once the new government is formed. But only time will tell. For more on the Taliban government formation and the Afghanistan crisis, we have with us Mr. Omar Samad, former Afghanistan ambassador to France and Canada, who is joining us from Washington, D.C. Mr. Samad has also served as a senior advisor to Dr. Abdullah, the former chief executive of Afghanistan. Mr. Omar Samad, welcome to WION. The Taliban is expected to announce the new government next week amid global attention and scrutiny. What can you tell us about today's Taliban, so to speak?
Well, today's Taliban obviously are trying to portray a different face, different rhetoric, different messaging, new PR, and new messaging, both to Afghans as well as to regional players and countries and the international community as a whole. To what extent the rhetoric and the words match actions will be tested over the next few days. The first test is going to be the formation of the government, as you mentioned in your report. But there are many others. It has to do with governance. It has to do with where authority resides. It has to do with criteria about competence and skill sets. They will need technocrats and bureaucrats to run the government. It also has to do with how they treat women and minorities and other groups in society, to what extent they are inclusive, and how they are going to build relationships within Afghanistan across communities, but also in our neighborhood, in the region in particular, knowing that the West now has left, the money is dried up, and that it will take a bit of time to rebuild those connections.
We've heard the Taliban make statements about trusting the new regime as it tries to rebuild the economy and attract foreign investment. Do you think the new government will be able to revive the economy?
It's going to be very tough, a huge challenge to revive the economy. The economy was not doing well to begin with. When Mr. Ashraf Ghani left, he left already a poor country where 90% of the population, more or less, lived on less than $2 a day. Afghanistan, 70% was dependent on foreign aid. The salaries of teachers and military and police and others were being paid from foreign donors' money. So already we had huge problems. COVID obviously added to that, displacement also. Now, for the fact that we haven't had a functioning government for 3 weeks and the international community has frozen assets, obviously the situation is dire. The Taliban will need technical assistance, professional assistance, technocratic assistance, managerial assistance. They would need these skill sets in order to be able to revive. But at the same time, an economy needs investment, internal and external investment. It needs trade. It needs transport and transit.
Well, taking over a country by force is one thing and governing it is another challenge. How do you think the Taliban is going to tackle the resistance in Panjshir as well as terror threats in the country?
Well, the Panjshir issue is an immediate issue. The Taliban originally said that they wanted to resolve this through talks. They want to resolve this through talks, but over the past 48 hours, we've been witness to heavy fighting in and around Panjshir, in the vicinity of Panjshir and other regions and provinces as well. We have to see exactly what the result of this fighting will be. Either the resistance will grow and become more powerful, or it will weaken. Whatever happens, I think it needs to, at some point, lead to meaningful negotiations between the Taliban and the leadership in the Panjshir. As far as terrorist groups are concerned, where the Taliban have taken a very clear position against ISKP, and they have made pledges going back to 2020 to the United States and to the international community that they will not allow groups such as Al-Qaeda to operate out of Afghanistan and be a threat to the international community. So we have to watch and we have to hold them responsible for their words as well as their actions.
Well, coming back to women's rights, which you mentioned earlier, the Taliban is projecting a more tolerant or moderate image and has allowed women to go to university while banning co-education. Do you think women will get any role in governance?
I think women will get roles in government and they will have access to education segregated, as you mentioned, under what Taliban describe as Islamic law. I don't, at this stage, expect a high-level female appointment, meaning the Taliban may not agree at this stage to have, for example, a female minister or governor. But this is an issue that has to be discussed with them, and hoping that over time they will loosen their restrictions and they will be amenable to having women reach high office postings. But the fact that the Taliban shows some flexibility, in terms of women working and having access to education is a plus. Let's hope that they maintain that pledge to the Afghan women.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Samad. That was Mr. Omar Samad, a former ambassador to France and Canada, joining us live on WION from Washington, D.C.